Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing a video on short game. So I'm just going to go through what I'm trying to practice on. I've recently released a few course vlogs, and one of the areas that I've seen that I need to work on is my chipping. So there's a few things I picked up in the video. If you could do me a favor and hit the subscribe button, that would be much appreciated. And if you are liking the videos, please like down below. So one of the first things I've noticed in my chipping recently is that I can get too quick. So I'll take the club back not quite far enough, and then I'll jolt it down and get really quick coming into the ball. So that's the first thing I want to work on, is lengthening my backswing and just allowing the club to fall into the back of the ball. The other thing that I've noticed is that my swing path gets too left, so I swing across it too much, which is okay for some shots, but it can impact my strike and also impact the direction. So I'm going to try and look to sort of swing more from in to out. So if the club line is to target, I have a tendency to swing this way. I want to try and feel more in to out and trying to hold the face off. So instead of it turning this way, I'm trying to hold it open and move it more towards the target. Again, I want to go for a longer backswing and then just allow the club just to fall down. Oh. So the thing I find hardest with trying to do this is to get the tempo right. Obviously I'm taking it back further and slower, and instead of yanking it down, just allowing the club to fall. So trying to time that with the rest of my body is the hardest thing. But yeah, this is what practice is for, so let's try and hit a few more. Also, a really good and important thing to do is to try and clean the club as much as possible, especially here where we've had a lot of rain in Nicaragua. It's super wet, hence the flip-flops. It also makes chipping super tricky when it's this wet, because you catch it a tiny bit fat and it can just roll out in front. It's good to practice when it's like this because it really puts emphasis on ball striking. So then when you do come to play, when it's tight, wet lies, you've already got the experience, and then when you have good lies, it should be a bit easier. So yeah, let's do a little bit more and see if I can start to get this technique a bit better. So this one I'm going to try and do a really long backswing, but really smooth. Perfect. Comes out super soft. So much better. The ball striking wasn't great, but the results were pretty good. So I'm going to do a drill now, just a one-handed drill. This is always a really good drill for me to get the tempo a bit better and not allow myself to hit into the ball and just let the club fall into the back of the ball and then let the ball be picked up on the downswing. Okay, so I've still got my gap wedge. I'm going to do the one-handed drill now, and like I said, just to get used to allowing the club just to fall into the back of the ball and stop me yanking at it. We'll do a round of those and see if I can gradually get that feeling back again of just nice and smooth and let the club do the work. Perfect strike. Sometimes you actually notice you'll chip better one-handed because it gives you a bit more feel for the tempo, and just like I said, it just allows the club to do the work, stops you overthinking it, and the club just does it. But there's enough loft on the club and enough bounce on the club for it to work if you give it the right opportunity. So one thing you need to remember to do with this drill, which I still need to work on, and it's just reminded me, is to make sure I'm still turning the body through and not allow the hand, even though it's one hand, allowing it not to take over. I've still got to turn through and face the target. And let's just try and work on that with the one hand now and see if we can get the strike good again, get a few close. Perfect. Okay, that one came out good. Another thing to focus on with the one-handed drill is just to make sure the grip pressure is nice and light. That just allows the club just to flow a bit more freely. But I'm going to hit some now with the 55, which I struggle with a bit more because you need to hit it a bit harder. It's something that I want to work on. I always want to try and work on the things I struggle with the most, and generally that's chipping. Okay guys, so I've got the 55, and like I said, I struggle with this one a lot more than using my gap wedge. And also there's not the most amount of bounce on this, so there's only 9 degrees of bounce, so generally better to be used on slightly firmer turf. And like I said, at the moment it's really wet out here, so it's going to make it harder, but also that's better for practice, so that, you know, I have to make sure that the strike is perfect, otherwise it's just going to dig in and I'm going to fat it. So that one was nipped perfectly, and the tempo was really good, just trying to feel like there's a metronome in my head, just 1 and 2, 1 and 2, and that was much better. So I just want to make it clear that I'm not proclaiming to be a pro or anything like that. I'm reasonably low handicap, so I'm off of 2, and yeah, I'm just trying to show my experiences and my struggles and what has helped me to try and relate to you guys and try and help you guys out, because golf is a super tricky sport and we can overcomplicate it, and I'm sure we all share similar frustrations or similar technique issues, similar golf psychology issues. So I'm trying to bring light to that and trying to relate to as many people as possible and try and grow together. Okay, so I'm going to finish off my practice with a bit of visualization and a bit of focus on landing area. So I've got a blanket, and I'm just going to try and land the ball on the blanket. Not actually too bothered where the ball finishes up, but the main thing is just trying to land on here, because then I can start to calculate how far the ball's going to run out, and I can start hitting more towards target rather than guessing roughly where I'm going to be pitching it. So this is a good exercise to practice landing spots and start to calculate distances with different clubs. So I'm going to lay this down roughly where I want to land it. So I'm going to use my 55 again. I want to be pitching this about 2/3 of the way there, between here and the flag. So it's going to be a couple of paces on, I think. And again, I'm calculating this, I'm sort of guessing at the moment based on the greens, but I can always move it around. So that's where I'm thinking to pitch it now. Let's try and aim at 50%. First one, that was perfect. 2. That's 2 in a row. Oh. So one thing I've noticed actually, when I hit a couple of bad shots, is when I've lost focus on the target. And this is a bit of psychology within the game, is that when we start to hit bad shots, we then start to focus a bit too much on technique, and then, you know, thoughts go through our head of negative thoughts of not wanting to hit a bad shot again, and then that would generally happen. We'll hit a bad shot instead of really focusing on the target still and allowing the body just to get into the positions required to get it to the target. That's one thing I've really noticed, especially with my chipping, when I've gone through really bad stages of having the yips. So when I'm thinking too much about how far I need to take the club back, technique and everything, which is good to do in practice, but when you're trying to hit to a target, you want to be focused on the target, not technique. So I got 2 out of 20 there, landing on target. There were some close, that's not very good. Even though the dispersion's not bad, that's not the aim. The aim was to try and land it on target. So it's an area that I'm always needing to work on. It's not my strongest area of the game, which is why I want to try and spend as much time on this area as possible. And also it's one of the most important parts. You know, we're always going to miss greens. It's trying to get up and down, whether that's for bogey, par, birdie, sometimes on the par fives. This is going to cut a lot of shots off my score and off the game. So I'm going to try the same exercise, but with gap wedge. And I'm going to just change my landing spot to see if I can get more out of 20. And that's just going to give me a bit more of an idea of maybe from this shot, I'm using the wrong club. So maybe I don't want to use 55, maybe I want to use a gap wedge. It's all about trying to play the percentages and trying to work out, firstly, what are the percentages. So I want to be pitching it on the green so I can guarantee the roll a bit more. If I'm going to pitch it in the fringe or on this rough, it could sort of bounce anywhere and it's a bit harder to judge. So I want to make sure I pitch it on the green. Just short and left. That's one. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay guys, so I got 5 out of 20. That was a lot more than my 55, but also more importantly, they were a lot more closer. The dispersion, as you can see, I hit a couple of bad ones, but they're not horrific. So it's all trying to play your percentages, and I already knew that gap wedge for me is way more consistent, I feel more confident with, but it's maybe something that a lot of you can sort of work out, which will really help your game. So another thing I've learned in terms of using target practice, or focusing on target, whether that's putting a blanket down or trying to hit a spot on the green or trying to pick a distance on the fairway, whatever it is that the smaller we make our target, the more focused we can be. Firstly, instead of focusing on negative thoughts, we're just focusing on the target, and then the tighter our dispersion will be, because if we're off the target by a tiniest amount or a big amount and we've got a small target, then the result's still going to be pretty good. Whereas if we have, you know, a rough target and we're off of the rough target by a tiny amount, then that's actually going to be quite a big amount in terms of the final result. So if we're going to throw a ball to a target, for example, then the body's just going to take over. It's already got the calculations done, pre-programmed in the body. We're not thinking about how far we've got to move our arm back or how we're to move our waist or whatever. We're focused on the target and the body takes over. And it's a similar thing I've found and learned within golf, is that the more we're trying to focus on the target, whether that's at the pin, whether it's a spot on the green, whether it's a blanket in practice or whatever it is, the body would take over more than we can consciously do through putting our hands or bodies in certain positions. So it's just something I found, and I'm sure a lot of others can relate to that. So I hope this video has helped all of you guys, and it's been a bit of an interesting one. If I can make these videos any more entertaining or more interesting or more informative, please let me know. If you're liking the content, please like and comment down below any more ideas or any ways I can improve it. Yeah, I really appreciate it if you'd please subscribe. I'm looking to make more videos like this and more on-course videos, and always trying to improve the quality of them, whether that be through the technology or the equipment that I've got, or through editing or whatever it may be. I'm always looking to try and improve. So thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.